Just want to say good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes before we get started. At the bottom of the screen, you'll find a Q&A box. Please feel free to submit questions for our speaker throughout the session. We are recording the session here today, so we're going to be sending it out next week in our News and Insights newsletter. And we'll go ahead and jump right in and get started. So today, John Hawkins and I are grateful to be joined by Stu Gold of BeginRV.com. But first, before we introduce Stu, I'd like to give just a little bit of background about how we got today. So last year in Atlanta, we tried something new out at the Aftermarket conference. We started a workshop that was focused on how to better understand, connect with, and serve the RV consumer. And that workshop featured the wanderpreneurs, influencers in the RV space. And during that discussion, we focused on how you could potentially use influencers in your marketing strategies. So the conference in San Antonio this year is going to continue that conversation into, developing your marketing strategies, your brand vision. And with our second iteration of that consumer-focused workshop, it's during the planning discussions for that workshop that John Hawkins brought up Stu and BeginRV and how he stumbled across them and what he saw there. John, you want to give maybe a little bit of a background about that?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Happy Thursday, everybody. We're starting our Independence Day weekend, and Stu, who's a U.S. citizen, is sitting in England right now, so it's kind of ironic. He's over there enjoying it. Y'all have a 4th of July in England, right? Just like we do.
Oh, it's a dark day here in England on 4th of July. We keep in our house on the 4th of July.
So we thank him for joining us from across the pond. And, as we at RVIA and the Aftermarket Committee have, tried to expand on what we've started the last couple of years, is we were searching around and looking for options. I came across a very interesting thing that Stu put together. And first of all, I'd like to say a little bit about Stu. We've learned a lot about him this morning. He is a former lawyer. He started a toy company. He has BeginRV. He's an avid RVer, loves the lifestyle. And he's also a writer that has a movie in the works right now. So we're happy for him to spend a little time with us. So Stu, if you would, tell us a little bit about how you started BeginRV.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, John and Jeremy and the committee. So I started our BeginRV only 2 years ago, but I think the story goes back around 20 years when my first experiencing renting an RV, and just my feelings around that experience and how difficult it was. I was about 21 years old. Didn't really know anything about RVing. Had 6 friends trying to rent one for the summer, and from beginning to end, it was one of the most stressful, kind of difficult experiences of my life. So fast forward 20 years later, as I've lived a on and off RV lifestyle, I wanted to give back to the community and kind of start a website for beginners, because I think for most of you guys who've been in the industry so long, this all kind of probably seems very second nature to you. But for those who are, starting off at the beginning, it's all very scary, very kind of, how do I get into this? And when I talk to so many people, they never start RVing because of all what the perceived barriers to that. So I wanted to help break down some of those barriers and maybe just offer some simple information, get some interviews with just some common people, so people can say, hey, I could get into this also. And I've been proud what I've been able to achieve in that. I get emails, I get comments every day, and it's just nice to be able to give a little bit something back and help people avoid the experience I had.
Right. So being an RVer, I assume one of the things that you were looking at as a first-time RVer, you were looking at social media and obviously websites, looking for information, and influencers and different groups obviously appealed to you and probably helped you. And that's how I came across you, is because I found that you had assembled the top influencer list in the RV industry for last year, which I thought was very unique because I'd never come across that before. It was a nice list that had a very intriguing at some points, because there were groups that I hadn't even heard of before, that you had gone out and you had a team that researched it and put together what kind of like a top-down list. Everybody loves a top-down list. And so tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to create a list. I mean, everyone has this idea, and I'll talk a little bit about this today, of influencers, of, people, beautiful couples sitting on the beach with a mojito. And I kind of wanted to break that down, because I think sometimes it's not right or wrong, but the most visible, influences the RV space, or maybe some of those people that have 1 million followers on Instagram, or, have this huge social following. But those aren't necessarily always the people who move the conversation in the RV space. So what I wanted to do kind of with my team was really research, talk to people in the industry, reach out to all kind of corners and say, who has influenced you in making decisions? Who do you look at where you're thinking about buying products? Who do you look at for information? Who are the most trustworthy brands in your space? And I kind of compiled a composite of that information, and I created this list because I wanted to say, hey, for you guys out there who own your own brands or who work for brands, who can I go with to collaborate with? Who are the real people that are making a difference? And there are many people you've heard of on this list, but there's probably a lot of people you haven't. And it's an opportunity to work with people who are both well-known and some of the less known people who actually have an outsized influence of what you would expect.
Well, and we appreciate, first of all, that you had RVIA on there. That make things a little bit. First of all, it validated you to us.
Easier and harder.
So it made it easy to call you up and invite you to be a part of this. So we do appreciate that. Jeremy appreciates that as well. So based on all that, how have you transitioned this into what you do every day? Since obviously we know a little more background on you from Jeremy and I talking to you, but how have you put this to work for you and with other companies that you work with?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I just I have a philosophy. I give out free information, I give out free videos, I give out free, what I call sometimes free inspiration to people. I want people to be inspired. I want people to learn by my content. And I think a lot of times, and which I'll hone on in my presentation, is that people get so focused on selling products, right? We're all, most of us here are business people. We have something to sell, whether it be a service, a good. And I think that sometimes we forget that, we're not only selling a product, we're selling a story, we're selling something greater, we're selling ourselves as a brand. And for me, what I've kind of transitioned to, which has been an interesting transition, is kind of working with brands, both in the RV space, but in all other automobile, lawyers, physician groups, and kind of helping them see, that you'll be so much greater and so much more if you're selling yourself as the product, not necessarily your product as the product. And I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy giving back. And if I never, in all honesty, I know this sounds crazy, but if I never earn a cent, I used to be a lawyer for 10 years in a job I really couldn't stand. And if I didn't earn a cent from doing this, I think I would still be happy doing it. And I think that's really powerful for me. And, a motivation for me to keep doing this.
Well, do you want to jump right into kind of that presentation? Then as we get questions, we'll feed those to you, and just kind of start from there.
Absolutely. Okay, can everybody see my screen from here?
Yes.
We can.
Excellent. So today my presentation is called 3 Actionable Strategies to Grow Your Brand Online. What I want to do is kind of give you three strategies and 3 takeaways from each of those strategies. I want you to go home with 9 things today that, tonight or tomorrow, you could start implementing for your brand. Because if I'm talking so kind of minutia and you don't get anything from this, it's worthless for you and worthless for me, because I need to be helping you with this information. So for me, we're in 2022 right now. And to me, it's crazy how many brands don't have a marketable presence online. I think, we're an online world, and whether you like it, don't like it, hate it, you need to have a presence online. And simply having a website is not enough. You can put up any website, but it's like opening a store. If you don't have foot traffic to your store, you could have the best products in the world, but no one to buy them. So you'll hear me say this a number of times today. But in order to sell online, you need 3 things. You need valuable products or services, you need a great brand story, and you need traffic. And if you're missing one of these elements, you're going to end up losing to your competitors. So I'm going to go through this presentation, give you strategies. If you have any questions, stop me at any time. I'm happy to answer, and we'll move from there. So the 3 strategies we're going to look at today. Our brand story is, think about your brand. Do you have a story to tell the world? 2 is influencer marketing. And that means you have advocates to tell the story for your business. And 3 is search engines optimization. How are customers or your clients finding you online? So here's a sneak peek into my site. And I don't know if you could raise your hands, but I would ask, how many people have heard of me? And my guess is not many, right? So maybe some of you have come across me, but probably not many of you have heard me. But if you take a quick look at my website statistics, this is just the last 12 months. I have 4.5 million impressions on Google. I have 126 unique clicks. And the great thing about my site is that I know it's not just kind of crazy. I know people aren't coming to my site to buy a radio. They're not coming to my site to learn the latest sports scores. They're only coming to my site to learn RV related information. So I had 126,000 people coming to and this is only Google. This is not including any other search engines, which will get me up to around 200,000 in traffic. And I say to you guys online, I say, if you converted on my traffic just 2% of these customers, potential customers who came to your site, this would give you 2,500 new customers every year. And if you look at how much you earn per customer, you can start doing the math, and that'll start adding up to be probably a pretty significant amount for your business. And this only took me around 16 months to grow this. And I only spent, I would probably say, $750, as crazy as that sounds, to start my site. So like I said before, I don't sell products, I sell stories, I sell inspiration, and I sell know-how. And people appreciate this. I'm not asking for something. I'm not saying, hey, go out and buy a water filter. I'm not saying go out and buy the latest solar panels. I'm giving them know-how to do things. I'm giving the inspiration to actually get out on the road. And over time, they get to know me, they get to like me, and then they'll buy stuff for my site because they trust who I am and they trust that I'm not just out there trying to sell products first. So this is one of my favorite quotes by Gary Vaynerchuk. If your organization's intentions transcend the mere act of selling a product or service, and it's brave enough to expose its heart and soul, then people will respond. They'll connect, they'll like you, and they'll buy. So today, what I want to say is I think there's too many businesses out there in the RV space and in every business that are only selling products, right? They focus on their product and they don't care about anything else. I think it would be a mistake to go to Starbucks and think they only sell coffee, right? What is Starbucks selling? They're selling you an experience. From the second you walk into a Starbucks, you have the smell, you have the green colors, you have the sounds, and best of all, you kind of get your name on a cup, right? Every single time you're going to Starbucks, you're not just going because it's the best coffee in the world. I mean, everyone has their opinion, but you're going because of the predictability, and you're entering their Starbucks world, which is very comfortable to many people out there, right? You're buying them pretty much for their brand. And my point to you guys is this, I'm sure all of you offer great products and services, right? But you have a lot of competition out there. There's probably 5 other companies selling tow bars, or there's maybe 10 other companies selling hydraulic cylinders. But how are you guys standing out from the crowd? How are you differentiating yourself when you're selling the same exact tow bar, right? Why is a customer coming to your business to buy a solar panel, right, rather than another business? That's my question. I think these are questions that maybe you have answers to, or maybe not. So my first strategy is creating this powerful brand story. So I kind of want you to take a look at this. I'm going to do a little exercise, just 30 seconds, and maybe come up with 3 words when you see this image. And we purposely blacked out the brand name, so maybe you could guess after this what brand this is. But what 3 words come to mind when you see this image? I'll kind of give everybody 20 seconds to, or 30 seconds to write this down.
And you want them to maybe write it in the chat, Stu?
Yeah, that would be great. And maybe, Jeremy, if you don't mind sharing some of those, that would be excellent.
So I'm seeing family, adventure, nature, raw, unfiltered, dreams.
Excellent. These are all
Vacation, family, happiness, quality time. Just a few of what folks are saying here.
Okay. Then that's all great. I think that's exactly, these are the words I came up with. We're family, which I'm sure there's a lot of confidence and ease. So does anybody know what brand this is? Just from this picture, it's a mother, 2 kids, an RV in the background. It says "Make Summer Memories." Can anyone identify the brand?
Yeah, if you know, throw it in the chat.
I know, but I got
Oh, here
to
we
check
go.
those.
First guess is Cruise America. We got a second Cruise America.
Yeah. So that's right. So what to me is interesting is there are some contextual clues here, but all you have is an open field, a mom and her 2 kids, and obviously the RV in the background that says, maybe, I'm not sure if you could see it in the back. Maybe that gave it away. I didn't notice. But, this is Cruise America. And as industry experts on this call, right? You might have your own associations with this brand, whatever you feel. We're not getting into that. It's the feeling this gives off, right? It's the feeling of family, confidence, adventure, ease, the feeling that you yourself can rent an RV and have this same experience. And this is the world I saw myself in 20 years ago when I was going to rent an RV and I went to go look. I had such a hard time. But then I came across Cruise America eventually. I was able to rent my RV from them because I had the feeling that I could do it. Everything they do is filtered through their brand world, right? They make it seem very easy and accessible to be an RVer. And that's kind of the power of their world. Regardless of their product, they could draw people in by a simple image and you totally understand the feeling, give you a feeling. They're not selling the product. You can notice the RV is not at the center of this picture, right? It's actually in the background of the picture. It's the family that's in front of this picture. They're not selling their product. They're selling you a feeling, which is really nice. And it's a really powerful brand story they're telling.
It's a lifestyle.
Exactly. So great companies create a consistent brand story that reflects who you are as a company. And this is just kind of a basic. So the next thing I'm going to have you do, is maybe just take another 20 seconds and write down 3 words that reflect your brand. Something that reflects your values, how you want people to see your brand, or what your brand or your business is about. And if you could share those in the chat and we could just hear some of those, that would be awesome.
So we got trust, quality products. I think for RVIA, certainly trust, support. We want to be a brand that supports our members' objectives, reliability, innovation.
So now that everyone's had some time to do that, this is what I want, one of the big takeaways. And if you're doing this, this is great. Then this is perfect. Then you should keep on focusing on this. But you can think about your words. You go back with your team later on and think of these words. But I want you to pick out 3 words about your business that you think are the brand pillars of your business. So each of these words, for RVIA, you say trust, reliability, then those are pillars of your business, right? Those are what's keeping your foundation. They're not your product. It's different. This is not your product. This is who you are as a company and as a team, what you want the outside world to see you as. But then these are the foundations that's keeping your business alive. So to create a brand story, it has to be filtered through these brand pillars, that everything you're relaying to the public should be, if one of your brand pillars is trust, then it should be trustworthiness. Is all your image trustworthy? Is your website trustworthy? Are you giving people the feeling of trust? Just kind of like Cruise America does there. Are you making, so you want to pick your words and then think about your brand and think about, is there a dissonance between what your brand pillars are and how you're holding yourself out to the world? Or are you in alignment with what your brand pillars are and how you're holding yourself out to the world? Because, products come and go, right? But if you're a powerful company, like RVIA, the people know RVIA, the brand, right? They know the brand. This is what makes you powerful. And this is what makes you grow as a business. So big takeaways here. You want to sell the story, not your product. I think you have to sell a product, not a story. You want to create your brand pillars. So tonight, tomorrow, next week, get with your team. You create these brand pillars and start looking at, are you telling your business story through these? And then simply start actioning. Looking at your advertising, looking at your website and saying, how can we align ourselves more with our values and who we are? I'll stop right there in case there's any questions or.
Jeremy,
Nope.
Did you have anything pop up on Q&A?
No, nothing specific right now.
Okay.
I think great background, great information on kind of that first step at developing your brand. Yeah.
So
Okay,
is the message that you're putting across is pretty key. I mean, I don't, I think it's simple enough to take the action steps that you just put out and apply that. I really do.
yeah, and I don't want to give people some long project that's going to take them a month to do, right? Because everyone will tune out and will say, I can't do this. These are very easy steps that could really have big, impactful results for your business long term. I mean, really, if you're not, it's what makes trustworthy companies trustworthy, because everything is in alignment, their ethos, their values, and what they're holding out to the public. I think if you could align all those three, you have the foundation of a very strong company.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this just comes right down to, defining that company culture, the culture of your brand, and then, being authentic in how you present that outwardly.
Yes. People could smell inauthenticity from a mile away, right? And it's the last thing you want as a brand. Okay, I'll move on to the influencer section. So influencer marketing, and I know this probably kind of gives a lot of people here the shudders. You even mention the word influencer, you get that kind of gag reflex of, oh, influencers. But what I try to preach to businesses and people is you got to kind of turn your mind a little bit and think about it just in a little different way, right? So what is an influencer? Very simply, an influencer is somebody or a company that has the power to influence decision-making of other people in your particular market. So an influencer in the fashion area or the gaming area is not going to be an RV influencer, right? All influencers have their own niche. They're not created equal. It's not always this image we have of influencers of a guy or a girl dressed in a, kind of with their cappuccino in hand, and they're smiling. If you think that's the only influencer that's out there, then you're missing out on a whole world of potential brand building and business, for brand building and world building for your business. So I like to call this the influencer hierarchy, right? And so you just kind of go down the list here. You have family and friends, customers, industry experts like many of yourselves, and celebrities. And so what I want to dispel today is that the most common misconception about influencers is that they have to be these A-list or B-list celebrities, right? But smart businesses who know how to leverage influencers to grow their business and their brand actually know that friends, family, and customers are their biggest influencers, right? Which I'm guessing you all have, right? So most people, I'd probably say 95% of the businesses out there that I talk to don't leverage your family and friends to kind of be spokespeople for your business, right? The people who love you the most, the people who care about you the most, and the people who will really go to bat the most for your business. So if there's one takeaway today, go back to your family and friends and say, hey, even if they don't use your products, give them a product and say, can you just talk about this? Can you tell how great it is? How great it was to work with the company, right? Your friends and family and your customers will do almost anything for you if they like you, right? So go to them first and say, how can I leverage these hundreds of people potentially to grow my brand on a micro level? And then as you work your way up the food chain, and I'll talk about a little more as I go forward, you can work yourself up to the industry experts and then the celebrities. But then as you go to that kind of, as I have the bottom of the pyramid, those where stuff gets a little more expensive and you start paying for those influencers. But the friends and family and the customers, you're not paying a dime for, right? This is organic influencing, which most businesses miss out on.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of jump in here, Stu, is, as influencers, and this kind of, moniker has been talked about, especially, in the social media, digital age, we often forget about the value and the power of just word of mouth advertising. And, that's what you're talking about with friends, family, and especially customers, and leveraging those folks who already have engaged with your business in that word of mouth, and making, direct actions to leverage that. I think you're pointing at the value of that.
That's exactly right. Because you could pay an influencer, right? You could pay an influencer $1,000 to post your product or post your brand, or more likely $10,000. And that'll come and go in one day. You might get a spike in traffic, you might get a spike in visibility, but as fast as that goes up, it's to come right down. Your customers will go to bat for you over and over and over again. And I would say, don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to ask your customers. Don't be afraid to ask your friends and family to write reviews for your company, to say something nice, to do an Instagram post. 95% will say yes. And, you know, for most businesses, that's potentially 100 people who are willing to do something nice for your business that are untapped right now.
And so this isn't specifically a question that's come in, but more of a statement. But you know, it says, you know, one of our market's challenges is the distance that we have from the consumer. Historically, the aftermarket has been trade focused, dealing in that two-step distribution process. And so collectively, you know, and one of the reasons why we brought you in and we really started engaging this conversation is this group wants to leapfrog to influence that end user. And so just to kind of give you a background understanding on what this group is really trying to do is better reach that end consumer.
Yeah. And I would say this works business to business as well as business to consumer, right? You could have other businesses, you know, I don't know how many people are on this call today, right? But say there's 100, right? There's 99 other people, you know, who have some authority in their company or are business owners who are high up in their business, or maybe they're low down in their business. Well, those are 99 other people who now you've met, even if you haven't shaken their hand, who are there, who most likely, you know, 80% of the people on this call will likely lend a hand to you to help you out in your business, right? To help give a recommendation for you to, you know, help your business in some way. And, you know, I'll talk about that in a little second also, but it's a slow process, but, you know, whether it's, you know, going to the A-list celebrity or going to, you know, your colleagues, your friends and family, you know, it's a groundswell and it slowly builds. And you have the patience and you have kind of the gumption to do this, there's going to be a winner in this market, right? In the aftermarket, in any business, there's always kind of a few winners who find out ways, who put on the extra effort to be the leaders in this kind of space, and the people that everybody knows, both consumers and businesses. And the question I ask every business I work with, I say, are you going to be a leader or are you going to be a follower in this space, right? Most people will be followers because that's just how life works. There can only be one or two leaders. But there's an opportunity to kind of be a thought leader, to be a discussion leader, to be a brand leader. And, you know, it's going to be those businesses who seize that opportunity to do that. So what can influencers do for you? Really, they could start a conversation about your brand. They could expose your brand to a new audience. They could build brand credibility and trust. They could create brand appeal. And they could get you value for your advertising dollars. And I'll kind of go into this next slide on kind of how you do that. And maybe this will help give some ideas to some of the folks on this call. So what I like to call this, and I've read a lot of, you know, marketing influencing books, and this is one of the big, you know, kind of the big tent poles, right? Is digging your trench, right? So to me, if I'm in your position right now, here's a real actionable strategy that you guys could do to kind of start building your brand up, getting noticed, and kind of being more in the middle of the conversation rather than being on the outside of the conversation. So what would I do if I'm you, right? I'm looking and saying, I'm making a list. I'm taking a pen, putting on paper and saying, I'm making a list of 100 influencers in aftermarket space, right? And if there's not 100, say there's 50, then everyone you could think of, right? That are both directly in your space and maybe just a little outside their space, right? You want to get on social media. If you already don't have an Instagram, Facebook account, whatever, you know, they have a blog. You want to follow these people. You want to see what they're doing, seeing the messaging they're putting out. You know, everyone on this call should be following everybody else on this call, you know, to see what they're doing, right? To see what strategies are working for them, to see what's not working for them, and kind of getting an idea what other people in this market are doing and what's working. And then really easily, you know, again, I want to make this easy, and people think it's rocket science or it's going to cost you, you know, $50,000. It doesn't. You just reach out. You reach your list of 100 people and say, hey, I'm for BeginRV. I've been doing this for 2 years. Here's my story. This is how I got involved. This is what I'm doing. You know, maybe can we work together? Would you mind if I send you a product of mine? Would you mind talking about it? Maybe we could do a talk together. Maybe you could, you know, we get on a committee talk. And piece by piece by piece, you start growing your brand presence. And you know what? even if you're going through distributors, and even if the end consumer doesn't have an idea right now of who you are, all they're getting is a product, eventually they might start finding out that there's one or two companies who are have the highest quality products that are known in the industry, and they're going to start wanting to buy from those companies directly, right? It's the reason we buy from Ennies, the reason why, why we get jewelry from Tiffany, right? The reason why we get our coffee from Starbucks. Not necessarily because they do it better. It's just they know how to leverage their brand assets. They know how to tell a brand story, and they know how to influence other people's decision making.
Yeah, so we had a question come in, talking about executing maybe on all fronts might not be enough. So is there one thing to build a brand's value proposition that would help out more? And I think what I'm hearing from you, Stu, is that it's not necessarily just one thing. You have to build your brand story. You have to be authentic in how you speak about that, and then you have to leverage people to help drive that messaging to other audiences to scale that message.
Yeah, I mean, the shortcut, if you're going to consumers, you can take a shortcut, right? And that's maybe Google advertising or Facebook advertising, where you could say, hey, I'm sure many people on this call have done this, where you're pumping, if you're going direct to consumer, you're pumping in 20, 30, 40, maybe $100,000 a month to get your product out, right? I mean, listen, plenty of, most businesses do it. It's expensive, for most businesses, it's not sustainable, right? So if you want to take the shortcut, and I don't believe it's actually a shortcut, I think it goes like this and then right down, because once your money runs out, you disappear into the ether. So how do you build sustainability? It's this, and doing all these strategies, it doesn't take you 5 years. If you really focused on this, in 6 months, you could start becoming a brand leader in your space, right? You could start becoming that company in the aftermarket area where people look to and say, you know what, they're doing something different. They're doing something right. And how do you become that company, right? It's not easy, or else everybody will be doing it. But you gotta dig in and have either yourself or hire somebody or hire a company to start, actioning this strategy for yourself. Because I think what you guys should be excited about, perhaps, is that, I'm not intimately familiar with this particular niche. I know about it, but what I do know is this: as somebody who's casually, as an RVer, or somebody has a business in the RV space, I haven't heard of a lot of aftermarket companies, which says to me there's an opportunity to perhaps be that company, right? You could be, even as small as the BeginRV. If you just had a website, a web presence, and you had, 200,000 people coming to your site, I mean, that's probably, a big chunk of business right there that, could separate you from, a lot of other businesses out there. We're about to release our new 2022 influencer list. I'm working with Jeremy and John. I'm going to release it to you guys first, so you have it. That'll be out probably the next day or so. We'll work with them, so you're going to get that list first. Like I said, we spent months researching this list, and this is not a plug for me. This is just to get it out to you guys so you have it. I don't advertise in this. I don't make any money from this. These are just so brands like you could kind of use this. And you might say, hey, I see somebody missing from here, and I'm definitely missing, a whole bunch of people or brands. And I invite you to say, hey, you know what? Have you forgotten about this person? Have you forgotten this? That's how I learn. That's how we learn, because there's thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people in this industry who deserve to be on a list like this. But it's difficult to kind of nail down everybody. So please share your thoughts with me, or just reach out and introduce yourself and say, hey, we're doing this. I'd love to talk to you. And perhaps, we could have a few of you guys on this list.
So, just another question. So with there's so many content creators out there, right? And you said it yourself that this list might not even be exhaustive, right? I mean, there's just so many that are doing this. So if a brand wants to engage with somebody, like, obviously this list is a great place to start, but then how do they determine who to partner with to connect with their brand? So,
my answer to it is this, is that go back to your 3 pillars. Who are you, right? Are you fun? Are you cool? Are you innovative, right? Are you reliable, trustworthy, and safe? Look at your 3 brand pillars, say, this is who I am. This is who our business is. You go out, you either go, you go through a company. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend going on Instagram or going on Facebook or going on TikTok even, and say, who are the people in my space? Who are the people in the RV space who share these same values? Who are putting out videos and content that are exactly like mine? You know what? You reach out to those people, you follow them and say, hey, I've been following you now for a few months. I've been following you for whatever. I think our values align. We're doing this. Would you be interested possibly in doing something together? And maybe only 20% of the people may respond, or maybe, 20% say, hey, yeah, well, for a fee. But you start the conversation. And as they get to know you and as they get to see who you are, influencers are just like everybody else. They're just people who happen to have a bigger following than most of us, and they're looking for business also. They're looking to elevate their own brand, right? And most of the time they're happy just to take a product, right? They're happy just to take a simple product, if not for free, and say, hey, here's, a product that cost me $20 to manufacture, right? That might get them to be an advocate for your brand for the next 5 years, right? So look at your brand values, align yourself with people and with groups that match your brand values, and go from there. Don't fall in the trap of picking influencers who have millions of followers, because I'll tell you from personal experience and clients' experience, you'd be shocked that it doesn't make that big of a difference, because they don't care. They're not going to care about you. They're not going to care about your brand. They're not going to give you valuable content. Look for influencers, in my opinion, who are in the 20, 30 to 50,000 follower range. Those are the type of people that you could really get traction, who are actually doing kind of what you would want them to do in your space.
So are there any pros and cons to working with multiple influencers at the same time? Do you have any recommendations of rotating through them, or to kind of refreshing anything like that you could give us?
So what I like to do when I'm working with a client or even myself, I like to run a campaign, right? What are you trying to say with the campaign? We call it a campaign, right? Are you trying to launch a new product? Are you trying to just do an awareness campaign, right? Because what I'll try to do is then collect, I'll say, hey, I'll reach out to, it may take a month, but I'll reach out to 100 influencers and maybe only get 5 of them, to engage with me, right? But then I'll say, okay, July 4th is our go date, right? And you think about it, if you have an influencer with 50,000 following, if you have an influencer with 100,000, one with 500,000, you look at the collective power of all those people, then you have them post, or you kind of have them reach out for you on the same day, include you in their newsletter. Then all of a sudden, people from all over your market are going to see that message with your name in it. And that has a really powerful knock-on effect for your business, because all of a sudden, if people see you one time, they're going to forget about you. If people see you 2 times, they'll still probably forget about you. If they see you 3 and 4 and 5 times, somebody's going to go off in people's head and say, oh, you know what? I see this business on Instagram. I've seen them in a newsletter. I've seen them on Facebook. They must be doing something kind of right, or they must have an outsized influence than what I actually realize, right? Because if you keep on seeing them, they're going to think you're bigger than you actually are, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we had another more of a comment come in as well that I think goes across these lines, that they find many influencers want a product for free, that they just want a transaction. We'll post if we can get a free product, and obviously that becomes difficult if those products are expensive. And what value are you getting for that one post? I think it is more about creating a longer lasting relationship with somebody who shares the same values as your company and your products, and your brand, that really you should be looking for.
And that's a good point, Stu. I could speak from experience. We get quite a few contact from people that want something for free, and we'll review it and post. What's a good tip on validating an influencer? You spoke about going out and doing your the legwork and researching, but how do you vet them? How can you tell right off the bat? It's like reading a stack of resumes for hiring somebody. How do you get one in each stack? How do you choose? Any tips?
Yeah, and if you expect that 100% influencers that you work with are going to work, then you're going to set yourself up for failure to begin with, right? I mean, you pitch business 100 times, you may only have a 20% success rate. You got to take the attitude that a 20% success rate is it's like baseball, right? If you're hitting 300, you're hitting 310, times you're at bat, that's actually a good percentage. So if you kind of could get over the fact that 7 out of 10 times it might not work, but those 3 times are what's important, and how are you leveraging those people, right? So, I mean, for me to pick, I mean, I typically, when I'm helping people with this, or I'm doing my own business, unless I have a really good feeling about somebody who reaches out to me, I won't work with people who reach out to us just because, they're most likely just looking for something for free, to be honest.
An agenda. They've got an agenda as well.
Right.
It might be innocent enough, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, they might just say, hey, I want a free something. I don't want to pay for myself. We deal with this all the time. And, there's nothing wrong about trying it out and kind of taking the flyer. I mean, it's hard to vet people, but look at their history, right? The greatest kind of indication of what they're going to do now is going to be their history. So if you look back through the last year of their content making and see what they do. Are you liking their posts? Are they kind of taking the time to talk about the products? Or are they just kind of putting a picture in, saying, well, this is great, Look at what they're doing. And, if they're doing minute-long testimonials about a product, or they're using it in a way that you want your product to be used, perhaps, then go on that. That's kind of the best indication we use. And then look at the comments, right? If someone has a half million followers, but only has 1,000 kind of likes or only 100 comments on it, that probably means that people aren't very engaged with them. They're not engaged with those, they probably either bought followers, or just people have tuned them out at this point. I'd rather have somebody with perhaps 30,000 followers who has, 5,000 likes and 3,000 comments than somebody who has 500,000 who has less than that. So don't get, people get really caught up in the number game when looking at influencers. And that's a really big way to kind of either, be disappointed or lose money quickly. It's not about numbers, it's about engagement.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I just want to get this across right now, because this is the crazy thing. And, you guys are now in a meeting with, probably 100 other people, that have all different audiences, all different contacts, and all different followers, right? Like, very easy. Just make it a goal to get, to reach out to 3 other people who you think, are, maybe that you've never met before, or who are in your kind of space, or maybe in a space that you're looking to get into, and just say, hey, you know what? I'm here. I saw you on this meeting. Is there any way we can work together? Is there any way we could cross promote our brand? Can we leverage the power of both our brands to kind of make something bigger? People get really kind of possessive over their brand, their company. But to me, in this new kind of world where kind of everything is moving online except the actual physical act of RVing, which thank God, is still out, is still out in the wild. I mean, if that goes to VR, then, then, I think a lot of us will, I don't know what will happen. But in this world where, you have the amazing ability to connect with so many people, it's so shocking how few people actually do this. It's just, people are so nice. I believe in the power of just other nice people being out there, and people will go out of their way, bend over backwards to help you. So leverage that. Don't be afraid. I know Jeremy and John will probably kill me for saying this, but reach out to them. They're amazing people. They have great contacts. Like, just say, hey, this is what we're doing. And it may not be now, it may not be today, but maybe a month or 2 from now, Jeremy says, you know what, you introduce yourself, you told me you're doing this, and I, actually met somebody who's looking to do this also. Why don't I put you guys in contact, right? There you go. You're growing your business. Okay. So takeaway, engage family and friends and customers in your business. You don't have to shoot for the stars at first, start at the ground level and build up. Dig your own trench. Reach out, make a list of people that you want to be, that people that you admire, that people are doing the same thing you're doing, or you admire, they're growing their own business. And 3, collaborate with others in your industry. Don't be too possessive. Don't silo yourself off in the corner and say, well, we're doing it our way and that's it. You know what? You could do that, but ultimately you'll lose out to other brands who are more nimble and, who are more open and more social than you are. You see it all the time, It's just, use the power of other businesses to grow your business. Finally, you're probably sick of hearing me talking, but I'll get to this last point and I'll try to make it quick. So how do you get people to your website? This is interesting because I see a lot of great websites out there, right? Beautiful, have great imagery, great video, and they only have 20 people a month who are visiting, right? And again, it's that store, it's that beautiful store with beautiful products, beautiful layout, beautiful colors that no one is going to. So how do you do this? So real quick, because I know people don't know what SEO is, and in all honesty, it could be technical, but I'm going to kind of try to make it easy for you. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's the traffic that comes to your website through Google, Yahoo, Bing. It's that traffic when people search and your website shows up first or second or third or maybe 10. It's the way you don't have to spend any money, zero. I mean, just putting your fingers on the keyboard and giving it, it's the way people find you. Really, what's the purpose of SEO? It's pretty easy. Traffic to your site. Traffic means sales, means new customers. It's the lifeblood of many companies who operate online, or all companies. Authority, you're building your brand out as an authority in the space. The more people see you online, the more they'll believe that you know what you're doing, the more that they will trust you, the more that, people trust my website because a lot of my articles show up first. They say, hey, they must know what they're talking about when they're showing up first on Google for a bunch of different topics. Longevity, Google ads, they disappear. Influencers disappear within a day. They put your product up, people are scrolling to the next thing, it's here and gone. On Google, you live forever, or you live for a long time, right? So it's longevity, it's sustainability, and it's low cost. That's the craziest thing, is that SEO is so underutilized and the value is so great in order to build your brand and in order to convert sales. So really real quick, and this is all kind of high level because I know that this, it could get technical, but I just want to kind of give you an overview. And if there's any questions afterwards or you want to contact me offline, that's perfectly fine. I could go a little more in depth on this, but really what you need to show up online are three things, right? Keyword research, you need other websites to link to your sites, and you need content, you need articles, right? So if you don't remember anything else, right? Nothing else from this portion of the presentation, right? People make this mistake all the time, right? The key to getting organic traffic on your website for people to find you in Google is not writing or saying things that you want to hear about, that you want to write about. Oh, I had a great day today. I just visited Yosemite National Park. Let me tell you how my day went, right? No one will ever find your content that way. They're just not going to, it's just, there's too much stuff on the internet for people to find you. What you want to do is find out what people are searching for, right? What are people actually searching for? And then giving them that content. You're reverse engineering. If 10,000 people are searching for, best RV pillows, right? Then you're going to write an article called the 5 best RV pillows, right? Because that's what people are searching for. You're not going to write an article saying, this RV pillow hurt my neck, because in all honesty, nobody cares. And I know that sounds harsh. And if you want to write for vanity purposes and you just kind of want to keep a log of your life, that's fine. But most of you guys here are here for your business. And if you actually want to get traffic to your site, you want to write and give out content that people are searching for, right? So really quick strategy to do this. And, it's maybe one of the simplest things, and maybe people do this, right? But about 2 hours before this presentation, right, I just typed in best RV aftermarket, right? And I typed this in Google, right? So you see a list here. This is what pops up on Google automatically. Aftermarket RV warranty, RV mattresses, RV steps, awning fabric, replacement furniture, replacement toilet, right? So if I'm a business looking to grow their organic SEO, Google is telling me basically that these are the most popular searches for best RV aftermarket or best aftermarket RV. Tomorrow I'm getting online and I'm writing an article about one of these topics. And the title of my article is going to be, best RV replacement awning fabric, right? Not something in a million years that probably most of you would ever write about or think about, but perhaps you have you're selling RV awning in the aftermarket, right? You may not, have a whole thing about fabrics, but if you're selling you're selling awning, right? Use this best RV replacement awning fabric as your title. Use that key term 10 times in your article, and sooner or later, you're going to show up pretty high up in Google when someone types in this key phrase. And guess what? If your article is helpful enough and you're giving somebody enough information, there's a damn good chance that they're going to buy from you also, right? Because not only, have you identified what they're searching for, but now you're giving them free information on what they want to hear, and you're actually teaching them something. Now you've gained their trust. And once you gain their trust, now you could sell to them. It gets back to the whole point of, right? You're not selling the product, you're selling yourself. You're selling your knowledge, you're selling your information, and then, you could convert them selling your product. I'll take a stop right there just in case, there's any.
Yeah, we did have one question come in, just and I think this just comes down to bandwidth, but they asked if hiring a great e-commerce or web guru or consultant or whatever is a good investment to maximize SEO efforts. I think what you just showed here is a great first step, and then obviously within your own company, you got to make the judgment to determine the bandwidth and resources that you have to extend upon that and write content and search for what needs to be written and that kind of thing.
So to me, it's hard because I know I have friends who do this, and it's hard because you could be throwing money down a black hole if you're not careful, right? And I would warn any small business, you gotta, where are you in your growth pattern? Are you looking to accelerate growth? Do you have time? To me, if you have the time, and I'll go through actually, how you could action this yourself, because I want to give you guys actionable steps on how you can do it yourself. If you have the time, you could do it yourself, or you could hire a freelancer to help you out do this and not spend a lot of money. That's the first step I would take. However, if you're, a bigger business, if you're already, a multi-million-dollar revenue per month company, which probably many of you are, and you just kind of want to get on this, then yeah, go ahead, go out to that e-commerce company, go out to that SEO company, and they could kind of fast track this for you. And again, it might seem like a lot of money at first, which it will be, but it's investing in, the longevity, and it's investing in kind of your brand and the foundation for your future and kind of future-proofing your business. Because the thing is, it's not meant to scare anybody, or because there is no, you got to do what's right for your business. But eventually, if you don't do it, there are going to be other companies out there who are going to do this and potentially beat you out. And, it's just kind of where you want to focus your time, money, and effort.
So we had another question come in just about where do you upload those kind of articles so they can be found later on Google. And so the biggest thing is you want to drive traffic back to your website. So if your website, even if you're selling products or services or whatever, if your website doesn't have a content well, doesn't have a blog where you can write articles like this that can be a driver of traffic back to your website, that's what Stu is recommending you consider here.
Yeah, all you got to do is, I know it's not all you got to, if you don't know how to do it yourself, you have somebody help you set up a blog, right? And it's not that hard. You call it, whatever you want to call it. You write 4 articles a month, right? If you wrote 4 articles a month, 1 a week, even if maybe that's too much. You write 1 article a month, right? In a year, you're going to have a lot of traffic to your site. I'm telling you, you're going to start I know many of you already have this, but for those who don't, you will have organic traffic coming through your site, and you will be making sales from your site. I can guarantee that. Whether that's 1 or 1,000 is kind of up to you, and and how serious you want to take it. But I could tell you, you would never be able to tell from my BeginRV site, that I make thousands of dollars a month from it, right? Because it's not obvious, right? But those are kind of the best things where people don't even know that they're kind of, when they're looking at your recommendations, they're buying something, that it's kind of, you're selling it to them, right? They don't even know. They're getting information first, and then they're buying. Okay, so this is a really quick and dirty on how to write great SEO articles, like very quick and dirty. And I could, again, if anyone has questions, I'm happy to kind of take them offline and run somebody through this much more, in detail. But basically, to me, if you want to really make a dent in SEO online, and you want to do it through article writing, articles that are 2,000 words, right? So using that keyword, that's RV, the best RV awnings or the best RV aftermarket awnings, using that in your title, like the URL, the www dot, should have that keyword in it. It should be www. Your website, best RV awnings. So everything is always going to come back to that keyword that you're focusing on, right? Your keyword, what you're writing your article about, because that's how Google will recognize what you're talking about. In any article, you want to use a lot of pictures, a lot of video. You guys have great products out there. I'm sure you have great product shots of almost all your products. Use your product shots. Put them in your blog posts. Show them in use as much as you could. Show people how they work. Get really beautiful photography, because if someone could see your product, how it works, how nice it looks, then there's a really good chance that if they're searching for an RV awning. I'm sorry to keep using this example, but if they're searching for that, they've typed it in Google, they see a beautiful photo and information about how you use it, there's a good chance they're going to buy it. And then, for this is a brief, right? And this is just an example brief. But what I do is I use people on, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Fiverr, which is kind of a freelance website, or Upwork. But basically, I'll give someone a brief, right? I say, here's my brief. And, you have your keyword. This is for a different industry, but I just want to show you guys because it relates to any industry you're in. And then you give them the topics you want to talk about. And if you give a writer this information and you pay them 2 or 3 cents a word, right? Which for a 2,000, it'll end up being $80 or $100 to write one of these articles, right? Someone will write it for you if you give them enough information. And then all you have to do is maybe clean it up, edit it a little bit, and plop it on your site with some pictures that you like. It seems kind of overwhelming, but once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard. And you can be driving thousands of people to your site a month just by this really, really kind of straightforward strategy. So the big takeaways here, and I wanted to keep this short because I know I've been on for a while, is deliver information people are searching for, not what you want to tell, right? Go, write articles, give people information that they're actually out there looking for. Write articles that answer a question. How do I fix my RV? One of my biggest performing articles on my site is, what's that rotten egg smell in my RV, right? Which, it came up as a Google search. I'm like, this is something that people really, there's a lot of people, and I get thousands of people to my site a month from this, right? People want to know. Obviously, it's happening a lot, but I'm giving people an answer to a question that they don't know. People, you wake up in the middle of the night and you smell rotten eggs in your RV. You could think there's a gas leak. It could be, you could think there's, a water filter problem. It could be any number of problems, right? So you're going to go online, most likely. You're going to Google that. You're going to find my article, and then maybe I have the solution for you, right? And maybe then, you're going to perhaps buy my product that solves your solution because I gave you free information that helped you figure out the answer to your problem. And then lastly, it's engage people who you can help achieve your goals, right? That might be you. You might be a great writer. You may have somebody in your team who's a great writer who could do that in-house. You might go out via freelancer. You could go out to Fiverr, Upwork, any number of freelancing sites, do it that way. Or you could go bigger and go to an agency, who are professionals, and, you don't have to even lift a finger. You pay them and they do this for you. And that's it. That's me. Any questions? I make myself available, no fee, no cost. I'll help you walk through it. If anyone has questions, and I'm always happy to talk to people, grow my own network. And I love the space. I love the people I meet. And, I'm thankful to Jeremy and John. They invited me here today.
Yeah, we appreciate all the insight, and they're obviously, I think some of this stuff, once you explain it, we go, aha. It becomes obvious to us that this is the way that it should be done. But you've given us good direction. The SEO section of it, I think, is very beneficial. As you think back to when you got started in this, as an RVer, and we know you're coming back to the States here pretty soon. We're happy to have you back in the US. But as an RVer, and you started this because people with new RV, not knowing what to do. Is there anything that you can suggest to us outside of what we've been talking about today that we should do to help RVers, the individual brands, what we should do to help new RVers particularly? Obviously, information is key, but anything that's unique to you, because you this was born from you being a new RVer. And so your experiences we have a lot of new RVers in the
Yeah,
industry.
I mean,
right?
I think, yeah, so I think that's kind of, I mean, to me, I think maybe one of the biggest barriers in this industry that I've seen, and kind of the barriers that I'm breaking down, is you have a lot of industry people who are talking like they're talking to other industry people, right? They kind of assume that they know what you mean. They assume that what a black water tank is, and there's no kind of context, right? You got to remember, for somebody who's getting the new generation, right? The young guns who are 22, 23, who are renting their first RV from Outdoorsy or RV Share or Cruise America. They probably don't know anything about RV. They don't know the first thing. They're taking a flyer and doing it, right? And to me, the biggest way to make yourself accessible is sharing content, sharing videos that speak to you're talking to people like they don't know a thing about RVing, because more people, 85% of people, I would say, don't know a thing. They do it casually, they do it recreationally, they may only do it once a year or maybe once every 5 years. And if you're only talking to people who know, who are longtime RVers, then you're missing out on the biggest population that may be interested in your products or services. And to me, it's a shame, because there is a big barrier to entry, I think, as a customer in this space, because A, it's expensive, B, it's very, kind of technical, it's flat out scary. I was kind of scared out of my mind to drive an RV, but if I saw some of the new content that was out there, that a lot of the new content today, where it kind of showed people that look like me, a young guy who's, 21, just graduating school, going on this trip. And if I saw more videos and I saw more people talking like this, then I would say, hey, I could do this also. It would seem easier. And I think, my big message, my big takeaway is, speak to people, and your consumers and your people are most likely are people who don't have that same knowledge as you, and talk to them, you don't talk down to them, but you talk to them assuming that they need this information and they're grateful for the information.
And
oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say that's a good tip, because it is easy when you do this every day, like we do, to assume that who you're talking to already knows what we consider to be the base.
Well, hey, I want to kind of wrap up here. We're just over an hour. Really appreciate, one, John, you bringing Stu to our attention, and Stu, thanks for delivering just such great, easy, actionable information for our audience. Great resource. Really appreciate you being here. Everybody who's on the call, thank you for being here as well. We look forward to hosting you all in San Antonio in just a few short weeks, and I hope everybody just has a wonderful Independence holiday weekend.
Yeah, and we had a quick question in here about it. With this be rebroadcast, it is being recorded, and RVIA is going to put it up. And I encourage, Jeremy and I both encourage, if you have any questions or something pops up after the fact, reach out to us or to Stu directly. And the more that we can network together, as Stu has told us, is the better it's going to be for all of us.